Hello everyone and welcome back to Blockbuster Reviews. This is your favorite place for the coolest reviews of the hottest things. Deadpool vs. Wolverine, one of the most highly anticipated movies of 2024. In April of this year, Marvel Entertainment released the trailer of the movie, which over the past next 4 months had generated over 30 million views on YouTube. Now, if you're in the business of making money on YouTube through advertising, you would know that 30 million views on a video is absolutely invaluable and can fetch you thousands of dollars in revenue through that advertising, or even upwards of $100,000. That is how anticipated this movie was. But the question is, was the movie able to live up to its expectations? And the answer is a resounding yes. In the US domestic box office, the movie has been running for only 27 days, and within those 27 days, the movie has made $565 million in the US box office, $597 million in the international box office, bringing a total of worldwide earnings of $1.15 billion. But the question is, are these figures impressive? Because entertainment is big business and Hollywood is big business. So are these figures something that we're going to get impressed by? Let's see, for example, what you can do with the $1.15 billion that has been generated by this movie in only 27 days. First of all, we have the option of buying Balmoral. Balmoral is a castle that was owned by Queen Elizabeth II and is valued at £140 million. Its area is 500,000 acres, and in terms of dollars, it would be around $183 million. That means with the revenue of this movie, you could buy 8 of those castles. But let's suppose you're not into castles, and let's go to the United States of America, where you'd like to buy property, a proper house. The most expensive house in sale in America is the Bel Air, which is for $500 million. It's a very impressive property with 20 bedrooms, 30 washrooms, a parking for 30 cars, 36-seater cinema, 5 swimming pools, and a nightclub that sprawls over 100,000 square feet, and you could buy 2 of these properties with this income. Now, let's suppose you're into buying cars. The most expensive car in the world was sold in 2018. It is a Ferrari GTO, and it was created in 1963. It was sold for $70 million. Ferrari made only 36 of these cars, and you could buy 15 out of those 36 cars. But let's suppose you're not into flashy and flamboyant cars and houses and castles, and you would like to put your money into something a little bit more exquisite, like art. Now, the Leonardo da Vinci masterpiece called Salvator Mundi was sold for $450.3 million, and you could buy 2 of those with this income. The interesting thing about this movie is that the movie is making $3 to $5 million every day as we speak. And by the end of the time that this movie has made all of its money through licensing fees, through merchandise sales, through the US domestic box office, through the international box office, the movie would have made so much of revenue that you could buy all 4 of these things and be left with enough money to be as rich as Tom Cruise. And that's saying something. So yes, the movie has done very, very well. But let's see how the movie compares with other Hollywood blockbusters. For our first comparison, we're going to be comparing Deadpool and Wolverine with the highest grossing action movie in the US domestic box office of all time. And that movie is Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. The movie made more than $1 billion at the US domestic box office, taking inflation into account, and that is obviously a very, very impressive figure for any movie. Now, when you compare the charts of both of these movies, you see that there is a considerable gap in their income. And obviously, making more than $1 billion for any movie is incredibly difficult. So compared to this benchmark, Deadpool and Wolverine falls a bit short. But our second comparison is going to be a little bit more realistic. We're going to compare Deadpool and Wolverine with Marvel Entertainment's highest grossing movie, which was Endgame. Endgame was a global phenomenon, and it was a force to be reckoned with. It was a phenomenal success marketing-wise. Everybody loved the movie, and compared to that movie, Deadpool and Wolverine has actually done not bad. Compared to the previous chart, you see that in this chart, the lines have actually come a bit closer. Obviously, the earnings from Deadpool and Wolverine are never going to touch the earnings from Endgame, but coming this close to Endgame is something that is very difficult for any movie in the world, and Deadpool has been able to do that, so it's quite impressive. Now, there is something that I would like to mention here. If you've seen one of my previous videos, I have said that there are two elements that are very critical when you are analyzing the profitability of any movie. Those two elements are, number one, the inflation adjusted figures, and number two are the production budget. Now, when you look at the production budget of the previous two movies compared with Deadpool and Wolverine, you will see that Deadpool and Wolverine actually stands out remarkably well. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, was produced in a whopping $681 million, and even Endgame was produced at $481 million, as opposed to the production budget of Deadpool and Wolverine, which was only $200 million, which is a fraction of the cost of producing the rest of the two movies. So yes, now certainly Deadpool and Wolverine has a different kind of appeal, and these two charts, this one and the one we've seen before, are much more impressive in favor of Deadpool and Wolverine. Now that we've seen how it compares to these two movies, let's see how it compares to Deadpool Part 1 and Deadpool Part 2. Now this chart shows the blue line, which represents Deadpool and Wolverine, and the red and yellow lines show Deadpool Part 1 and Part 2. The chart literally speaks for itself. The blue line is shooting out of the chart, which means that there is literally no comparison between the rest of the two movies and Deadpool and Wolverine. So yes, the movie is very, very impressive on the box office. But while we've looked at these objective figures, we should also look at what subjective opinions about the movie are from the users and from the critics. So let's take a look at that. One of the most popular websites on the internet is a website called Metacritic.com. What Metacritic does is that it takes, for a movie or for a song, for instance, it's going to take the reviews from the critics and from the users, and it's going to give an aggregate score for the critics and for the users. Now, for Deadpool, Metacritic.com has given an average rating of 5.6 from 58 critics, and for the users, thousands of users have collectively given a rating of 7.0 out of 10 to the movie, which means that the users, or the ordinary people who are not critics or who don't see movies professionally and are not linked with that business, have liked the movie much better than the critics have, and it's not without reason. There were some technical flaws with that movie. When I went to the cinema, I saw the movie from both perspectives, from the perspective of a normal user and from the perspective of a critic. When I was watching the movie from the perspective of a normal user, I felt that it was a classic popcorn and coffee kind of movie. There was laughter going on everywhere, and you could relax and enjoy that 1.5 hour. And it was actually fun, and you could just relax and wind down, and had good entertainment value. But as a critic, there are some serious problems with the movie, which make the rating only 5.6 out of 10. And if 58 critics have given it only 5.6 out of 10, then there seems to be a problem across all of the critics with that movie. One of the things that everyone has criticized is that they should not have taken Deadpool into the multiverse. The multiverse is it's a complex concept, it is a messy concept, and it also changes the genre of the movie from an action movie to a science fiction movie, which we did not want to happen with Deadpool. Deadpool Part 1 and Part 2 were regular action movies, just good old school action comedy, but now it's become like a science fiction movie, and that doesn't have any appeal. Within the multiverse concept that they presented in the movie, there are a number of flaws. For example, in one scene they show that all the Deadpool from all the universes suddenly appear into the realm of the Deadpool that is played by Ryan Reynolds, and they all want to kill him. They don't explain the reason for that. There's just nothing happening. It's just to create an action scene and to create this whole multiverse scenario that they've done this, and it doesn't add value to the movie. If anything, it takes value away from the movie. So the whole multiverse concept does not ring true with a lot of audiences, including my own self. The second thing the movie was falling short of was the humor. The humor is actually very good in a lot of places, but in some places there are some characters and some jokes that are really off and actually pull down the energy of the movie. For instance, there's a character called Peter. He keeps showing up in the movie. He doesn't have any role to play, and for some reason, they've given him a lot of screen time. There's a ugly-looking dog and a Deadpool who is kind of girly and feminine, and they've given them screen time too. Apparently, what they're doing and what they're saying is supposed to be funny, but it's really not. It's not funny. And the third thing is that the action sequences I felt could be much better. Deadpool Part 1 and Part 2, apart from the humor, were actually known for their remarkable action sequences. And in this movie, this seems like the action sequences are a bit redundant compared to the Part 1 and Part 2 action sequences. So all in all, and there are other technical issues with the story and everything. Going into too much detail would actually make it a bit of a spoiler for you. But as a user, I did give the movie 7, and as a critic, I gave the movie not more than 6. So I do recommend you go and watch the movie if you haven't seen it. It's definitely worth watching at least once, and it's definitely a popcorn movie, good to watch and wind down and have fun with your friends. But it's probably not the kind of movie that you can go see again and again, and you wouldn't call it a masterpiece by any standard. So this was my review for this movie. Thank you very much for watching. Until we see you next time, like, share, and subscribe.